Further, I'm joined via Skype now by political analyst Melanie Verwoerd. Melanie, thanks a lot for joining us on Newsnight this evening. It is quite, one may say, exciting times, never mind for the African National Congress, but for the state of Parliament, especially come tomorrow. What do you make of the withdrawal, first of all, of Malusi Gigaba as well as Baleka Mbete from the parliamentary list?
Well, of course, I think it is a surprise. As much as Pule Mabe would try to make out that this is a normal thing, yeah, it's normal for people to withdraw their names. But as you rightly put to him, the question is, what are they doing then? And particularly if they are senior members of the ANC. And neither of them have given us reasons, nor have they said what they will be doing. And of course, Baleka Mbete has been in Parliament since 1994 and on and off Speaker since 2004. So she also threw a weight behind Cyril Ramaphosa just before Nasrec. So one would assume that there's something else lined up for her. Malusi Gigaba is more interesting. He's young. He's undoubtedly politically ambitious. So the question is, what is he planning? And I think we'll have to watch that next step of him very carefully.
I mean, another individual to watch will perhaps be Nomvula Mokonyane, as she's earmarked to assume the position of chair of chairs, and that has got a level of influence and power, especially over these portfolio committees to be presided over. I mean, we remember that even the state capture inquiry came as a result of such committees even being in full effect.
Sure. And I mean, the parliamentary committees are extremely important. And one thing that we must watch in the upcoming days are also who gets appointed as the chairs of those committees, those various committees. It's absolutely crucial in terms of passing policy that they are efficient, that they are competent, and also that they're supporters of Cyril Ramaphosa, so that they don't end up frustrating him if he wants to push policy reforms through Parliament. It's undoubtedly a demotion for Nomvula Mokonyane. There's no way one can get around that. But yes, as you rightly said, it's still a powerful position, albeit a position without any budget, which many people would argue, given her history, is most probably a safer way to go for the ANC.
Would you say that at this particular moment, the African National Congress is playing democratic political factionalism, so as to say, for lack of a better term, in the sense that they're trying to mitigate against those that would maybe even said to be sided with Ace Magashule on radical economic transformation agendas, as opposed to those that are in the faction of President Cyril Ramaphosa, and therefore they're playing nice, so as to say, in terms of the factions, with some being given positions, but obviously one individual who was former NCOP chair now who's sitting in as a ANC Speaker of Assembly is, of course, Thandi Modise.
Well, I think Thandi Modise is a very good choice. She's experienced. She will handle that parliament very well. We've seen her handle very difficult circumstances. You don't mess with Thandi Modise. And I think that's going to be required, because remember also that the EFF has now got 19 more MPs in Parliament. So 19 more can make noise and could disrupt that Parliament. And you know, as much fun as it was perhaps in the beginning to see that happening, it's not a good thing for democracy or for our image abroad or for Parliament's functioning if they cannot control and navigate that situation. In terms of the factionalism, I mean, I think that has been a real problem in the Fifth Parliament, and it really, to a large extent, made the Parliament dysfunctional at times. So it's very important that they keep control over that, but in particularly that it is important for Ramaphosa that he still keeps the upper hand. And we know that with the list as it ended up in the ANC, that's not a given for him. So given that he only has a certain amount of political capital that he can play with, I think it is important for them to take some, or for him and for the ANC and his faction in the ANC to take some bold decisions, but at the same time, of course, not overplay their hand, because that can come back as a problem for them later on again.
Let's talk a little bit about, the opposition. As you rightly mentioned, that the economic freedom fighters have got 19 more seats in Parliament in itself. But we've almost seen, as even with the previous State of the Nation address, the EFF seemed to be playing nice, or giving President Cyril Ramaphosa a chance to prove himself, so as to say, before any form of major disruptions will not happen in that regard. Do you see or foresee any sort of interruptions being made, particularly in Parliament? We knew why the interruptions were there in the beginning, and that was all related, as we said, to former President Jacob Zuma. But in this case, where even Julius Malema himself said at one point that we're going to give this man a chance and to prove himself, and if he doesn't, then of course we will say something about it.
The problem is that this has become sort of the trademark of the EFF, and it's been difficult for them under President Ramaphosa to find their sort of space in Parliament again. And you could see it very clearly. You know, they would at times try and make a point of order when he was answering questions. They were struggling. They did not know exactly how to position themselves. And of course, he was also was a master at also managing that, making jokes, as we saw in Sona at the beginning with Julius Malema. When he answered questions in the House, he was very skilled at almost complimenting Julius Malema at times and thus disarming them a little bit, not quite knowing which way to go with that. I have no doubt that they will disrupt at times. The question is to what extent and with what aim, because, you know, it played a role to some extent under the Zuma years, but disruption for the sake of disruption is not a good thing. And Parliament needs to function. And if they show intent is of making Parliament unworkable and ungovernable, well, that does not pose well for democracy. So I certainly hope the presiding officers, together with the president, will be able to broker some deal or at least get some understanding with the EFF that this does not happen on a continuous basis.